Hey, what's going on, guys? I just wanted to make a quick video. I have my camera set up. I was making a video for wedding stuff. And just over the last week, there's been a lot of stuff going on with the George Floyd thing and the police and the riots, and there's just a lot happening, and so it's hard for us to kind of sort this out. So right away, you probably have realized this video isn't going to be a school bus video or a normal video. But I've been thinking about making book review videos again. I've got a handful I wanted to make. And then I was just thinking, man, I wish I could do something meaningful with this YouTube channel, like talk about something important. And then this all came up, and I thought to myself, I have really nothing to say that's helpful, because there's a lot flying around on the internet and everyone has an opinion, and it's already very political, and it's hard to know how to think. And so I remembered about 6 months ago I read a book. It's called Woke Church, and it's about racism in America and how the church should respond. It's an urgent call for Christians in America to confront racism and injustice. And this book is awesome. I don't really have anything else to say, but it gives you a biblical framework for how to think about these issues, how the church should respond. He gives action steps. It's Eric Mason, a pastor in Philadelphia, and it's like theologically robust and biblically sound, and it's just a cry for justice and for white Christian people to care. He's like, really just like, we need to care. And he goes through a little bit of the history of the United States and kind of just charts out like how long like slavery was a thing, how long segregation was a thing, and then just like the last 60 years or so, we've been like trying to figure out how to live as equals, and we pretend like it's okay, and it's just not okay. And so we have all these flare-ups, and then the issues pop up, and people rage and riot, and he kind of gives a history of like why that happens and how as Christians we should respond. And as Christians we need to respond. And I have just felt convicted that like we need to say something. And so I have this silly little YouTube channel, and so I'm saying something. I don't know, people spout off their opinions, and I have a lot of opinions about things, but I was just reading today, or yesterday morning, Ephesians. I just read the whole book, and after the first 2 chapters, the therefore, like the reason why, like God has saved us, He by grace, He predestined us, the whole thing, the big, deep theological truths of Paul. In chapter 2, verse 14, it says that Christ has brought us peace. He's united the Jews and the Gentiles into one people in His own body. The whole point of like the gospel that Paul is getting at, his therefore, the reason, is so that we could have peace between 2 racial groups that hated each other. And the foundation of the Bible, like the Exodus story, is justice for the oppressed. Like the Jews were treated poorly, and God saved them. God cares about the marginalized and the weak and the poor and those that don't have power. And so Jesus died so that we could be one. We have one foundation. We're united in His body. And so I know there's a lot of opinions, and you might disagree with this book, but I would strongly recommend you read it. Let it push on you and pull on you and make you think biblically about these issues instead of just reading headlines on Facebook and reacting knee-jerk. I don't know. I watched the video, and I've been like reading pastors' responses and watching the riots, and there's just a lot going on, and it's hard to find wisdom in all of it, and it's heartbreaking, and I don't know. It's just this is something that can give a little bit of a rudder in this craziness. So read it. There'll be a link below. It's like $2 if you want to get an ebook version of it on Amazon. And look, it's thin. Eric Mason talked about it. He said it was like twice as thick, and then this publisher was like, nobody's gonna read that, so make it shorter. And so we did, for us people who don't have all the time in the world to read. But I think this is one of the most important issues facing the church today. There's a lot of issues facing the church, But this is a good tool in your tool belt for helping you think critically. So highly recommend it. That's all for this video. Hope you guys are doing well. Peace.